And Terri, whenever you're ready to jump on, just let me know. I'm also going to see if I can send out an announcement. Yay! Hi, Terri. Welcome.
There we go.
There we go. Woohoo! I just tried to drop in a link for your website, and it was saying it wasn't. No, okay. Drop-ins won't show in recordings or audio archives. They're working on it. Oh, well. Okay. So, Terri, would you like to tell people what your website is?
Okay. There's for the program, it's it's empoweredspiritprogram.com. EmpaweredSpiritProgram.com.
Excellent.
You can also find all my work at naturalforcesstudio.com too.
Naturalforcesstudio.com. That sounds great. So people, if you are interested in learning more about what Terri does, please go check out her website, naturalforcesstudio.com, and just check it out. So we were going to discuss the spiritual toolbox this evening, and it occurred to me that I have sort of two questions to start you off with. My first question is, so why do you need a spiritual toolbox, and, what's the point? And then the second question I had for you, which you can be thinking about, is what do you think are the absolutely most essential tools that you need for that toolbox?
Okay. So both are very good questions, and obviously one's leading into the other. So I think we really need to have a spiritual toolbox to help us find a sense of balance in the chaotic world that we live in today. I really do. There's so many things that happen each and every day on a mental, on an emotional, on a physical, and a spiritual level, that the ability to have the skills and the tools to bring yourself back into balance, to take a breath, reset, so to speak, so that you can continue is really vital. Spiritual tools really can be many things, and we'll get into the most important ones. But just for instance, just like as we just go to start right now, so that we can say, okay, let's get into a different space, and let's pull one of those tools out of the box. So one of them I would do is I would take sage. Right? And we could just light a little sage. Of course, I was looking for my lighter.
Of course. Yeah.
When you caught me, yeah. And we could just begin to then take nice deep breaths. Yeah, take a deep breath, open the belly, open the lungs, start to really deep breathe, exhale. So any kind of deep abdominal breathing is going to bring you into the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And once we get into that, that's when we start to lower the cortisol, lower the stress hormone. And we're doing it naturally. It becomes a tool. We're not pulling a bottle of aspirin out of the medicine cabinet, but we're making a shift in our energy. And when we activate the parasympathetic, that's where healing begins. That's where rest and restoration begins. That's the opposite of the fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system. So first and foremost, that can shift. That can be I think to me, actually the most important one in our toolbox.
Is breathing?
Is breathing.
I would agree with you 100% on that one. I think breathing is absolutely the key to everything. Yeah.
I really do. And I think that's what can really shift us quickly too. I mean, whether you're at your office, I've been trying to advocate for lunch and learn meditation, lunch and learn, stop, close the door, meditate. And so it's the same idea, just close the door, turn your chair around in your cubby. Even if you're at home, find a corner away from the kids for 5 minutes even. That deep breath, and that's going to create a little bit of shift in the brain. That's going to help start to harmonize the right and left hemispheres, and that's what can help you to really calm down. Now, there's many pranayamas. I'm a Kundalini student, yoga student, and there's many. You can do the alternate nostril. So if you breathe in the right nostril, it wakes you up. It energizes you. If you breathe through the left, it calms you down. So you can do that. breathing. You can do, there's so many. I've been teaching a women's Kundalini class, and we've been focusing on women's intuition, which intuition is another tool for your toolbox. That seems a little funny, but there's a whole world of skills and techniques and breathing that enhances the intuition, right? So even in that can be another tool. We can talk about intuition for a bit. Right? Many ways to get there. I believe that we all process energy in one form or another. So we have to figure out, well, how do we process energy?
Now that sounds like a very interesting question, because I'm imagining there's a lot of different ways people process energy.
There are. And I try to break it down into about 4 or 5 for people to understand. So like I ask, like, okay, when you walk in, do you feel the energy in the room? Right? When you walk in, do you notice, like where everybody's standing, do you notice visually the spatial patterns? When you walk into a room, can you like hear all the buzz going on? Or do you walk in a room and you immediately know, like, oh, this is here, you know? And then we start to look at the different clairs, as we call them. I was trained with Doreen Virtue's school, her, you know, clairvoyance, clairessence, claircognizance, clairsentience. So once we begin to figure out which of those is our dominant gift, then we begin to clear out all the centers and begin to access them all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that is actually part of what I teach in my Empowered Spirit program. When we spend a good 4, 6 weeks just learning and figuring out and how to clear out, because lots of times you have to clear out all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You got to open the ears and all that stuff you've been hearing from everybody else, right? Clear it out, all those feelings, all that energy that you've been holding on to everybody else's, right? As an empath, many times we don't realize, and we've got everybody's energy, we're holding it, but we have to clear it out so that we can then begin to learn how to process it without taking it in the body.
Right.
That's a really big tool. I really love it. I think we all can open up to it. You know, and then there are things that can really enhance that. Like, for instance, we're working with the Oracle cards. You like that. You read the tarot. Actually, you'll be a guest. I can't wait. You're going to be a guest on the show, my radio show.
Yay!
This month. Yes. Talking about one of our both favorite subjects is the tarot, you know, and then that becomes a tool for you, whether it's the tarot or Oracle cards. So what's the difference, right? People probably ask you that all the time too. Like, what's the difference between tarot? What's the difference between oracles?
I actually tell people when they don't even ask. You know, there are so many decks right now that are being called tarot cards that are not technically tarot cards, that are actually oracles, you know, because people are starting to call everything tarot. And tarot is definitely, from my perspective, it's a specific set of cards with a specific set of, they've got the major and minor arcana. They've got the 4 suits of earth, air, fire, and water, or the wands, obviously, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles or discs. And then obviously the major arcana, which are sort of the larger lessons in life. And oracles, on the other hand, can be anything that, you know, gives you guidance, you know, fairy oracles, angel oracles, blah, blah, blah. So that's my short answer to that question that you just asked. But I'm curious, you were speaking about the different clairs and what was your primary or your dominant clair when you first started on this?
You know, I was a clairessence from a very, very early age. I had no idea. I was taking in the family energy. I was really super sensitive. I was always being oh, stop being so sensitive. And I was taking in the emotions and then couldn't process them, basically. So I was definitely clairessence. And even now, even in the work I do, in my healing work, I feel people's pain. People can be coming at me and I can just feel it. And I've trained better not to be so sensitive to that when people I don't know, especially. But that is pretty much the gift. However, I can see. And I really never thought I could. And then I was at one of these workshops and like, okay, we're going to work with it. And man, the whole weekend I was seeing like flashes of color and images. And it was like, oh my gosh. So we can have more than one gift and we can train in them all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, clairessence. And now I see flashes.
Nice.
And I do say I do work with all, you know, 3 a.m. in the morning, I hear 4 a.m. I hear messages, you know, I hear them like, okay, this is, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, got it. You know, that kind of thing. So I think the more we work with the clairs, the more we can train in all of them. Wouldn't you agree? What about
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I experienced clairvoyance at a very early age and started more from the visual, but also the clairescence and being very empathic. I was always picking up other people's feelings and sensing stuff. But it's fascinating because telepathy was also something that really was strong for me, and just basically picking up on other people's thoughts and sensing things and hearing things. And I agree with you completely that I sort of think of the clairs as being very similar to the five senses in the way that we're not cut off from one sense usually. We have access to all of the senses. Why wouldn't we have access to all of these senses? But in the same way, we might have a dominance, at least especially at first. But after we clear things, it gets easier and easier. So I personally find that a lot of times, particularly when working with people, I will receive information in the system that's more dominant for the person. So, and particularly if I'm working with stuff that's from the other side, that if somebody was, for example, a very visual person, then I'm going to see images. If somebody was a very auditory person, then I'm going to experience more from the auditory side of it, for the verbal side of it. So what I've noticed is a lot of times the way I experience things is more about how I pick up the way somebody else is processing information.
Very cool. I love it. Yeah. I haven't thought about it like that, but I could see how that would make sense.
Yeah.
It's the energetic fields and the information stored, and if that's how they process it and stored it. Absolutely. Wow. Very cool. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's another tool that I think is really important. And whether you just practice on your own or, it's like you could do little things like, okay, every time you get a text, like think of who is that text, like try to bring in the information or try to know what emails are coming in or when the phone rings. Those are kind of fun. And, looking for signs, looking for like answers. One of the favorite stories I like to tell is about my daughter. She was graduating from college and she had, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 job offers, and she couldn't make a decision. She just couldn't, like, I don't know what to do. Anywhere from New York to Hawaii to Boston, San Diego, all over the place. And she's like, Mom, what do I do? Like, all right, Marissa, just, she was used to me and my advice and the spiritual toolbox lectures. Yeah. And just, relax and look around and look for a sign, look for a sign to give you some confirmation. Well, Jennifer, not more than 30 minutes later, she sends me a text. She was in New York City. That's where we lived. She was in New York City. And there was a cab getting in the car. And the marquee on her cab said, Hawaii is for you.
Oh, my God. That is awesome.
She's like, Mom, is that a sign? I'm like, yep. The cab was grabbed in New York City. Yeah, I think that was a sign. Yeah,
that would be a sign. Yeah.
And she did end up following that, and using that kind of intuition to help her. And she did end up taking the job in Hawaii. So I think that it's important that we begin to use these kind of gifts and take in these messages, and instead of second guessing it, like, oh, that really wasn't it, like say, okay, yeah, that was it. That's what I wanted to come in, or that's what I saw, or that was a dream I had, or I knew this, and kind of own it. And that's actually where you build the confidence in using these kind of skills, is really owning it and using it. And I think
I agree completely. Yeah.
Help you in so many other ways. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Then I also think, and you can get some of the practical things. You can get the essential oils. I use so many different kinds, but you can use, like, I love the doTERRA, my chronic healing teacher. Oh my God. His is the healing. What is his, from the plant of life or tree? I don't remember what his is called, his brand. His is pretty good too. Yeah, they're both good. But these kind of essential oils, they can shift your energy. They can shift your mood. They can help you. They also rebuild your cellular structure because they're so good. They have the plant prana in them, so that we can also use these. So these are great preventatives. Like if you're not feeling well, or, you can use a little bit of the lemons, or you can get into the oreganos, you get into the peppers, you can get into the ones that really can help you to feel better, so that you're not always going for over-the-counter pharmaceuticals that tend to mask. And then that can just start a whole nother set of symptoms because you don't know what's wrong again.
Absolutely.
So I think that one's easy. And there's so many of them out on the market today. There's just so many. I like the ones that they're organic, how they're distilled. I think all that's important. There's the doTERRA, there's the Young Living, there's so many more now that I don't even know that have
Yeah,
branched
I
out.
also really like Native American Nutritionals brand line. They do a very good therapeutic line, and also Mountain Rose Herbs carries some really, really beautiful organic essential oils as well. So I mean, personally, I think those four companies are the ones that I'd be the most inclined to suggest.
Yeah.
But I know there are even others that are out there now too.
All the companies.
And also Living Light. Yeah.
Yeah. All the companies have their marketing materials too. They have their website. You can go on, you can read. I know one of the things I love about the one I use is that they send you a quarterly little magazine and you get some tips and all the DIY. I love the DIY stuff. It's like, yeah, I mean, and that goes even further into the products that you use, using good products, using good scrubs, using things that make you feel better and take care of the self-care. Because I think that's really important too. I know
absolutely.
A lot of us, moms and working and kids and families, we forget that we need the self-care. So when we can add it into our normal routine, the nice products and, the scrubs and all of that with the essential oils, it really does help. I know it helps me feel better. I know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes my nights are a hot bath and, some nice, fresh, mixed up cocoa butter, that kind of thing. And I think that's important too. I really do. And
definitely. Yeah. What are your favorite essential oils?
My favorite essential oils, there's so many I love. Oh my gosh. Last month, my pranic healing teacher, Greg Tolands, who actually was on my my radio show today, talking about higher consciousness. Oh my gosh. I love it when I find somebody I can talk higher consciousness with. But he has some really nice ones, a little bit different. He had a ginger lily. I don't know if you've ever used a ginger lily. Oh my God, it took me away. It's a flower, so it's almost like a tranquilizer, like or something, because it just makes you feel so relaxed and the vibration is so beautiful. So that and jasmine too, which also helps to expel out of the solar plexus, so you're releasing a lot of that collected energy, but it's really nice. But I use a lot of frankincense. Frankincense is a really great spiritual oil. It's a really great calming oil. You can help you to really just, instead of getting that hyper, that shorter breath, it really just helps you to stay calm and use that peaceful breath. But then there's stuff like this time of year, lemon is really good to keep the lymphatics clear. Those are the most right now. Peppermint is for everything. That's another one. You
absolutely. Yeah.
Waking your head up to, stomach ache. I'm actually drinking a little peppermint tea right now, but so many. And I do go through shifts. I change them up, sometimes the other ones, but there are also some that, like clove, I use in my mouth routine. I have my whole, gargling and put a little clove in with the coconut oil, so that's a really good one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good. And so for me, I just kind of keep just integrating them in with my system and my daily routine, and then they become normal. I have them all over the house and then at work, and I use them with my clients, and just the ones that I use in different places, because that's how great they are and how easy they are to use as well. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are we? Let's see. We started with the breath.
Yes, we started with the breath, and then we talked about intuition, and then we talked about sorry about that. Hold on. I just lost my screen for a second there. And then we were talking about and sage. You actually had talked about using sage at the very beginning. And then essential oils. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there are many more. Crystals I love as well. I'm a big crystal person. I use them. Oh my gosh. I use them in like specimen forms, like this kind of thing. I have some set up over here on lights I use. I'm actually working on.
Yeah, I can see them. I was wondering what those lights were. I thought maybe it was like an image. It was like I was seeing out your window, but now I see, wow.
Yeah, so I use a lot of that. I have
some major generator crystals over there. Those are amazing.
They're all the Marians. Yes, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, these are really.
Do you want to introduce some of your crystals to us?
Sure. This one, oh my God, I love them. They're all Marians and slightly different. This one reminds me of the energy of the Hopi out in Arizona and New Mexico, that whole area. When you put it, you could see all through there. So this is like a really highly spiritual little beings of energy. that I feel like teach me and really keep me in alignment with my own Native American energy and that of Mother Earth. Love this one. It's got a nice pink color to it.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
very
It does
beautiful.
have generating points. It's amazing how much energy and recordings. This one is a really clear one, really pretty, and it's a Lemurian too. This is
Uh-huh.
first Lemurians. It has that nice flat generating edge there. I learned from this one. I learned all about crystals. I would wake up with messages. Amazing. So yeah, really nice.
Awesome. That's amazing. We just got somebody jumping on the call. Megan just joined us. Hi, Megan. Welcome.
Hey.
Terri and I are talking about the spiritual toolbox. And Terri has just been sharing. Right now, she's showing us some of her amazing crystals. They're just incredible.
Yeah, so these are really good teachers, and they really help to keep the space, clear for me. And I love them. I learned so much from them. Yeah, and this one too. And there was another one too. It had a little different flat. It had actually kind of interesting. I don't know if you know this, but in Alabama, there's an area called Moundsville, and it was Mounds Indians and very highly spiritual group of Native American, and they would build these mounds. And it was very fascinating, quite beautiful, and they're still around. There's still several Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, this whole area. And this particular crystal is another one it's another Lumarian like this one, but it has that mound energy on it, which is kind of interesting. So that's another one. So they all three work really beautiful. Then I have them on a light sculpture that projects color through. I also work with color.
Oh,
yeah.
Love color. Which is, I'm imagining, another tool of yours.
It is another tool. It really is. And let me tell you, oh my gosh, if I could take you and show you this take the blab into the bathroom, you would be amazed. My nephew actually knows how much I love color. And I actually have studied in color therapy. Julianne Bien, she's out of Canada, was my teacher. SpectreWho.com, I think is her website. I can't quite remember. But I like where I put people in color. So in my bathroom, I have these that you can adjust on your phone and set the moods and set the colors. So in the morning, I've got the reds and the orange and the yellows. At night, the blues and the greens. So I love to use color like that. And now the LED lights are coming more and more out there. It's amazing what is out there than when I first started. Huge amounts. So you can, in your own home, and they're doing it. People are starting to do it, use that as part of decorating and setting the decor of the home. But it's amazing how that can really help as well. I mean, my kids grew up with that. They grew up with the color all over their house, and each one had their color in their room. And, when they weren't feeling well, I'd use it. And in the mornings, focus their energy. So it is possible to do. There are not a lot of people teaching it yet like that. There's really not. There is a big lighting company here in Birmingham, and I would love to do something, but how many things can I do?
Yeah. Yeah, there is that whole thing of like being limited by the time-space continuum.
Yeah. But I do teach my clients, that's part of my program that I do teach them as well, that there are possibilities, especially for kids. I mean, put some yellow light on in the mornings for the kids, and the kids that have trouble focusing really come right into focus and wake up. Yeah, really, unbelievable. Even with, I've seen my daughter again. My kids are my guinea pigs. My daughter, I remember when she went off to college and got mono, brought her home, set her in yellow light, and just really reversed the whole thing very quickly. Yeah.
Now, when you're speaking about yellow light, are you talking about sort of a lemony yellow light, or are you talking more like that sort of like classic, like amber bug light color?
No, not really the amber bug light, really a more lemon yellow. And the light is measured in nanometers. So there are specific nanometers that Julianne Bien, my light teacher, comes up with for certain colors. And hers are very calculated. Hers are very mineralized on glass. And then she calculates the nanometers a little bit more rigid than some of your LED lights. But even your LED lights, they're going to come into a really pretty yellow. You can have a golden yellow. I sometimes work with golden yellow. That's a little warmer, right?
Yeah.
Yellow, but not really. But then you get into your oranges, you get into your crimson and orange, which are really beautiful. So you have your spectral colors, and you go a little further, and you have your spiritual colors, so you work with they're vibrations. It's energy vibration, but they're measured in nanometers. And then each color has a property, has a vibration that helps the body in some way or another. Her theory, like many theories for energy, is the body is designed to innately self-heal,
Yes.
and that the body takes in. And so the way I use color in my studio is I have the color on the crystals. That's one of the ways, but also then I shine and project onto my table. So depending on where the client is and what they're needing, then that's the colors that I'll set in the room for them. Yeah. It can raise your energy, it can lower your energy, or it can balance your energy. Very effective. Yeah. And now you can go to Home Depot and you can get light bulbs that you can put in your own home.
Right.
And especially for winter, the seasonal affective disorder, but really all year. I was a very moody child, I guess, because I did not know about my emotional body and what I was picking up. But color started to help me address it. When I was feeling like, too much energy, too much emotional energy, I could use color to balance it. And it really helped me learn about that a lot.
So how old were you when you discovered that?
How old was I? How about my 40th birthday?
Okay.
Yes.
So I imagine if you really started to come into it at your 40th birthday, that the first 4 decades were somewhat challenging for you.
Yeah, they were. I was highly creative. And so I think a lot of that was filled by being creative. So I think that's where I was in that field. Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, where was I? Like when I see my daughter, I'm sorry to be using my daughter so much, but she's such a good example because she's so focused and driven, and she's just, another generation than I was. But it's like sometimes I look at her and go, where was I? Like, why couldn't I be, like that? Even my son, the same thing, doing amazing, just a couple years out of college. But that's actually why. I was in a more creative head, a different space, and looked at the world in just different ways, and that's how I am now. And luckily, when you discover something like that, you can very easily catch up with it if you trust it, I always say that, well, I didn't say this, Beth Davis actually said it, one of my spiritual teachers, she's like, if you don't use your gifts, you sit in penalty of your gifts. But once you start using your gifts, then you can build them up. Makes sense, right? So if you have a gift of intuition and you don't use it, then you sit in penalty of it, which means you never trust it. It's probably there, but you don't develop it. So you sit in penalty of it. So it forces you then to use it if you want to be able to use it and really have that gift,
Absolutely. Well, and there was sort of a thread going on that you were part of where people were talking about the fear of their gift, that, and just sort of that some people, I think, especially when you have that ability to anticipate things that may be challenging, sometimes people will get scared of it and then they'll just sort of shut it down and then, really end up living in this purgatory of having a gift but not knowing what to do with it.
Yeah, I see it. I see when the third eye shuts down. Like you can see it. Like when I start to work, you start to go and you open up the third eye, and sometimes you can go, whoa, and the third eye comes up to your third eye, right? You kind of spirit, and then sometimes it goes, like, okay, come on, let's open back up, and then go, and you can tell when they've had a little bit of fear. Sometimes it's totally shut down. I remember when I first started reading the tarot cards. I mean, this goes way back. I got scared and I put them away. So, right. And it's like a lot of people do get scared. They see a lot,
Yeah. And I knew people, I've heard stories about people who had an experience very early on where they took on something, they learned something, they saw something, or they were, there, and where it really, like, they started and they got the information and they just went no and shut it right back down.
Yeah. And that is what happens. Yeah. That is, I mean, we'll take a sip. Hold on.
I'll do the same thing.
My tea, yeah.
Water.
But take off my glasses.
Yeah, it makes it much easier to drink, doesn't it?
It does. So one of the things that, my Empowered Spirit program, I love it so much, not because I get to help people. I mean, that's the main reason. I love helping people, but I also love seeing how they see stuff, like what gifts they have. Somebody right now, and she's always seen like in too many visuals, like she's got stuff she sees all the time, and now it's starting to filter. Now as we're working and starting to develop it, it's starting to filter out, and she's really only seeing what she needs. Very cool, right? Instead of like
very cool.
many flashes of stuff. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I have somebody else that she's always had the gift of hearing. And now that we're opening it up, it's like amazing. Like every day she's sending me emails of what she's been hearing and the message, and so I love it when we see this, that we can do this. We can open up these abilities and we can really grow them really for our highest good. Really, I really feel that is part of what it is for. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Oh, goodness. So we've discussed intuition and essential oils and breathing and
Light therapy.
different clairs.
Yes.
And light therapy, which sounds really exciting. Actually, I have a technical question for you with the light therapy. What, now there's obviously LED lights and there's also, just light bulbs. But with the training that you did, were there glass filters, or how was the light transmitted so that it was, or is that a proprietary secret?
Actually, it's kind of a little controversy, but I don't mind talking about it at all.
Okay.
When I first started back in the 90s, very different than the technology we're already seeing today, or I should say finally seeing today. My light teacher is very particular about her nanometers. Remember I told you light colors, nanometers. And so she works with crystallized minerals on glass. And she has a way of measuring the nanometers. So she's very particular, and her light source is like a little pen light. Or I have a spotlight, like a floodlight kind of crystal set, lens set, and that's spotlight. So hers is just traditional bulb source. Now she has this little wand that you use that follows meridians of the body, and that's just a pen light, but you use these filters that she has. And she has the sacred geometry. They're beautiful. The colors are absolutely beautiful.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Now, LED has started to come up, and it has started to improve its standards. I like LEDs. I won't argue with LEDs. I think they're really great, and they're becoming accessible. They don't burn on as much energy. They're cool. You can get many different colors as well. And now they're having more and more control. Like these, I forget what it is, the brand on my iPhone, LifeX or something. Set them for days, set them for night. You can set the whites, you can set the colors. So I personally notice and I feel and I can tell that they are, to me, very good. So I don't have controversy. I know Julianne and I argued a little bit back and forth with that, but she's also invested a lot into her systems, and her systems are beautiful. So I use both. I do use a combination of both. But I love using the LEDs with the crystals because, one, you see the crystals, and two, you see the color. You just see it, and you just like, I do offer these meditations, and the more you start to absorb, the more your chakras fill up with color, and the energy body, I call it the light body as well, starts to come. Then all of a sudden the colors, each one is just more beautiful than the other. And all of a sudden you realize, like, oh my God, I've like calmed down so much because you're absorbing and feeding the light body, and your body's taking in the minerals it needs. I mean, color goes way back. Dinsha, back in the 20s, and his work was taken over, confiscated. And he had to put all of his work away because it was so powerful. Edgar Casey talked about color therapy all the time. Stanley Burroughs, he talked about it. So it does go back, but it was taken away. So now the technology is catching up a little bit. And now, I mean, I would love to see schools activating this. I mean, this is just, I guess it's a passion. I don't know where to start or how I could do it. And I have so many other things that I'm doing, but I would love to see it in schools, see color being used and help the kids that need it for learning and to focus, and you use the greens for balance, you use the blues to calm down. And there's a whole theory and a whole schooling to it. I think it's really fascinating. And I love having it in my house. I'll be honest. I love having it in my house and love having it in my bathroom. It's like, ooh, what color do I want to make it tonight? And just kind of gel out, or like first thing in the morning, sometimes I'll get in there and have on the oranges and the reds because they're very stimulating, very creative colors. So and you can do both. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that will have their opinions on it. Norm Shealy is another one that studies and works. He creates his own inventions as well. So I tend to think he would agree with what I'm saying. But yeah. So those studies take me way back, and now I see the technology. I was with this man in New York, Michael. dear guy, and he would help create some of these sculptures that I use now. And so we would get into hours of the color and the crystal and the right ones and checking out any technology. So this goes back about 10 years. So now when you go into, like I said, go look at Home Depot, and you can even get spectrum bulbs, and you can get the ones that'll move through the chakra colors or the colors of the rainbow, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I think they're both good. I would just stay away from the fluorescents and stay away from, be careful of UVs. Now there's good infrared. There's lots of good infrared out there. I mean, that's a whole other subject now. You're seeing a lot of infrared saunas coming forward, and that's really good vibration for you. You just have to be sure of which infrared it is that you're using. And the same for UVs. You're seeing, the shower at our yoga studio uses UV to fight the bacteria, so that even that
right
moving forward. Right. Yeah. Yeah, there was a woman here in Birmingham that just won the TED Talks, $1 million, because she had an infrared system that could detect archaeological, how do you say it, ruins using infrared light.
Wow.
Sarah Parker. Yeah, she just won $1 million from TED Talks about this. Yeah, about her talk on this. But it was infrared technology. So there you go. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
As you were speaking about the difference between the technologies with using the LED light versus the lights that your teacher was originally using, and I was imagining that she's using them as devices that are pointing directly at places on the body.
Yes, she has protocols, kind of funny enough, kind of like now that I've been a student of pranic healing these last 3 years, but in some ways kind of like that. But she works with the meridians of the bodies as she does, like she has a wand. I didn't think about handy, but you do protocols on the body using different colors. So like I used to do a color facial, do the eyes. Actually, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Wow, I need to go back and do that. Do my eyes at night before going to bed, because you're actually operating and getting the organs. So you would do blues and reds and greens, different colors, and you would do that. Or you could just do it down the body, just depending on the protocol. But she would use a little direct source, and that's pretty much how she teaches. Wands. There's others that have like the magnified quartz on the ends and use like touching. There's some of those, but there are a couple of different inventions out. A lot of people using infrared for pain. A lot of chiropractors use infrared. They have these little machines, and they project
and those
that.
lasers with the infrared and everything. I've got a couple lasers. I've been working with lasers for a number of years. They're really fun.
Oh, right. There you go. In your technology as well. Yeah. There you go. So it is all fascinating to see it coming back around. And actually, Dinch's family now is free to open back up. And I think that's partly it, too. Their technology information has been like the time restraints came off of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing, the information that is becoming available now, and that sort of the way that stuff sort of got suppressed for a while, that things are just surfacing in so many places. Two of my personal heroes are Wilhelm Reich and also Royal Rife, and both of them were doing just amazing things with healing, and people were just, their stuff got suppressed for a while, and now it's just too many people know too much, and it's just getting out into the world. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Julianne, she was a very fascinating teacher, had a lot of knowledge beyond years. She studied, she was a huge fan of Tesla. She would stay in the New Yorker hotel in the same room he stayed in. She really did. So she really brought a lot of awareness to that as well in the work that she did. But it is great to see it coming forward, and it is great to for people to have the opportunity to really experience it, and see and make a difference. Color can be subtle, and it takes a little bit of building up, but it doesn't take long. It just is a little bit of consistency of using it and noticing the subtle effects that it has.
Yeah. As you're speaking about this, I'm immediately, and I just want to say hi to Kim. So glad you could join us. Welcome. And as you were speaking about this, I'm just immediately thinking of a couple kids that I know, especially with the yellow light for that focus. I've got, as I think so many of us know kids on the spectrum, and I've got a couple friends who've got, spectrum children, and I'm just thinking, wow, that lovely sort of lemon drop yellow light for the kids first thing in the morning, to give them that ability to just kind of get back into their bodies and focus
Yeah.
would make such a difference. Yeah.
It really does. It's amazing what a difference it makes. And it would just be so good and just so much better than some of the other choices that people tend to jump to, but it's vibration, I love vibration. I was talking about it this morning with Greg. It's like, even just all the things that we've been through with March, all the planetary shifts, the eclipses, what is it? That's planets coming together and rearranging, and that creates a lot of electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic force. So to find something to help us balance and to come back and feed the body what it needs on a vibrational level is really important. It really is. I know not everybody understands it that way. I tend to look at it from the vibrational standpoint, but let's look at it from, the physical. It just depends on how you want to look at it, Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can approach anything and regard it that it can work on a number of different levels for people. Yeah.
I mean,
we've got a super moon.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say we've got a super moon coming up on the 7th. So with the new moon, it's another super moon, which is just like in Aries nonetheless. And right now we're in a waning moon in Pisces, which I was just talking with my friend or our friend Jillian, and just about sort of that wonky Pisces moon and just sort of that droopy emo feeling that the Pisces moon can sometimes bring. But
and
we really have
the other planets too, which I don't know too much about, but I know they're having an effect as well. A lot of retrograde.
Yeah, there's Saturn is retrograde. Mercury doesn't go retrograde until April 28th. So we've got a ways before we're going into the Mercury retrograde. So, if you're going to buy,
the Saturn retrograde.
Yeah, Saturn is retrograde. But my understanding from talking to some friends who are astrologers with a Saturn retrograde is Saturn goes retrograde so frequently. It's like Saturn has a way of sort of like, it's almost like going in and out of phase, that people don't tend to be terribly concerned. But Saturn retrograde can actually be really great for breaking up structures and for going through periods of change, because where Saturn holds that rigidity of structure, when Saturn goes retrograde, it's a great time to make change. And it's a great time to kind of loosen up and shift stuff. So it's very good for when you're deciding you want to undo something. Yeah. So Saturn retrograde is actually a very useful retrograde.
Oh, I like that. That's a very useful way, because sometimes it feels like, sometimes it feels like you're swimming upstream, especially if you're very responsible and you have so much you have to do. And then all of a sudden it feels like none of your systems are working, but that makes total sense. Total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up a little bit. I like that. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was personally born just before the shadow of a Mercury or I was born in the shadow of a Mercury retrograde. So personally, I write best when Mercury is retrograde. And what I've discovered is that I really like to use Mercury retrograde as a time to get stuff done, because so a retrograde does not have to be, a problem, in my personal opinion.
But it does shake stuff up, don't you think? It shifts the energy around. So I think that is. But I've always wondered about people like you that were born right in the shadow of a retrograde and how it affects. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, the way I think of it is that it's sort of like it's shaking something up only in the sense that it's moving in a different direction. And so because it's turning, you're going to feel that sort of it's going in an opposite direction. But it's if you were naturally born as it was in that process of going there, it can be very advantageous to use your natural tendency, like whichever direction you move in, So it's sort of like our culture is so like right hand dominated or dominant. It's almost the same with retrogrades, that we just have this idea that direct is better than retrograde, but it's still part of nature.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. And, I like it when we have shifts. I like it when we have that ability. I mean, I like it, I always say that about the equinoxes and the solstice, and we have the seasons, we come back into alignment. So I do like when we have that bit of a shake up. But I think that's also why we need to have these tools. So that when we do have the shake up, we can ground our energy and come back and be solid with who we are. And I think that's really important as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you were saying that you have a program that you are offering people to work with your tools or work with these tools and to develop their own toolbox.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me more.
Ah, I love it. It's the Empowered Spirit Program, ESP for short, and
Mhm.
it really helps people
No
who,
pun intended.
you know what? It was not until I got the website, and it was because I don't know, it really wasn't intentional, but I think it kind
At least it wasn't your conscious intention, but I'm sure
of,
somebody who knew that
I
had the
know,
joke
right?
in mind.
I
Yeah.
thought it was really funny because, I kept calling it things, and all of a sudden one day I said, oh my God, ESP, Empowered Spirit Program. That's exactly what I'm doing, right? But it's a one-on-one spiritual mentoring program is what it is. And it helps people to reconnect to the divine, to their own energy within themselves. It gives them the tools to understand how they process energy, how they look at stuff, energy boundaries, very important. It gives them a connection to spirit. Lots of times people have lost that, that they've been in their religious institutions and it's just not doing what they really need. And they feel that there's something more, but they don't know what. And this really connects to the divine for themselves, that inclusive energy of we are all one and spiritual feelings, and tapping in. I know, back in the 90s, I went through a horrible divorce. I really did. And I lost all essence of who I was. This is right before my 40th birthday. I had no idea because I'd been covering up so much,
Mm.
so far from who I was. And it wasn't until I worked with a spiritual counselor that helped me tap into my spirit. And so that's what I'm in turn offering too, is how do we get there? So I teach you the tools and we're doing energy sessions. So we're doing a little bit of both. And it takes people through that journey of first opening up to what their energy is. And then we get into raising the vibration, which is another tool. And there's some kind of energy modality. I think that now we're in an age where everybody can benefit from knowing some kind of energy modality. So I teach Reiki, and I think it's one of the easiest and most accessible energy modalities for people to learn. So we get a little bit of mentoring, raise their vibration, and they can come into my certification class as well. That's part of the program and be certified, or they can just have the attunements, whatever they want. And we work on that. And that's a great big part of self-care. And then it just starts increasing the intuition the more that you tap into the universal energy. And then we go into working with the critical mind and creating new spiritual contracts. And we do that with EFT. So you're familiar with emotional freedom technique. And that's another tool that they begin to have,
Yeah.
right? And then we put
Mm-hmm.
it all together. By the end, we take all the tools. And if this is going on, what do we do? And if this is going on, what do we do? And by that time, 3 months later, you've had the experience each and every week of going through, and you're having spiritual experiences, and you're recognizing differences in yourself, and you're happy to be accountable to and to ask you, how you feeling, what's going on. And by the time we get to the EFT, we really uncover stuff, right? Because we've
Mm-hmm.
started.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a journey that we go on with the program. It's a private mentoring class session, and I love it. I love seeing people that want to learn and that want to commit, and I love seeing them make the shifts and the changes. And it happens. It really does. It really helps them to move forward or make a shift or figure out their purpose or, start something new or whatever it is for them,
Yeah.
whatever part of it is that they need to work on and do. I work with, people that are going through crisis, like coming out of a divorce, that seems to be a lot of people, I guess, kind of matching my energy and what I went through and how I survived, and sometimes it's job related, wanting to create a new purpose, a new kind of thing. They've been working their full time and want to go from hobby to business. So sometimes it's that and picking up the skills to give them the courage to do that. Sometimes people can't figure out how to listen to themselves. Like they're so busy wanting everybody else's advice. Like, how do you make a decision? How do you begin to build that confidence? And this will teach you. This will help you to give you those skills. Yeah, that it will.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank
Do you
you.
have any favorite miracle stories or, sort of a particular like, oh my God, this is just this person I worked with. It was just a really remarkable experience.
Gosh, I've seen so many things. I mean, sometimes miracles. Yeah. I mean, Sometimes miracles is letting go. I'm trying to think of something now. Nothing's coming to mind. Um, I've seen where people came in and did not even
What
know
about your own miracle?
my own miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. My miracle was being able to really open up to who I was and just create, the shifts in my life that I needed to get where I am right now, and lots of miracles have come in. I've always been one to land on my feet. I had a very easy childhood and had to get out of the South just to grow and to learn. And that just opened up to a whole bunch of stuff I never even knew about. And, I went through a lot, but the miracle that I could get my kids raised and supported and see them now being reflections of who I am, doing really well out there in the world and, telling me my tools back to me. I love that. But I
That's
think that,
awesome.
yeah, I really think it's more in those everyday miracles that we create for ourselves. Who would have thought that I could have done what I've done? I don't know. I don't know. I see a lot of miracles. I really do. And I've hit bottom a couple of times, and the miracle to get back up and to start again, and sometimes we do that. We have to go through a shift of energy, a shift of vibration, and it feels like we're hitting bottom. But I think that is the miracle of tapping into these kind of gifts and, and pulling ourselves back up. And then, I did crash about 2 summers ago now, I guess it was. And out of it came a book, and I wrote about it and use it now. And it's been very helpful in the work that I do now, Confessions of a Shower Tapper. And that was almost a miracle that, I actually continued. If you read the book, you'll see it's pretty vulnerable. All the things I went through to be a spiritual counselor in the Bible Belt in Birmingham, Alabama, and 21 confessions. And they're universal, but sometimes it did feel like a miracle. Like I actually did make it through. Like I was lifted up and I did get, I did get what I needed when I needed it, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the miracles I saw recently was a woman that came in and was going through a big time divorce, just really big time. Didn't know how to breathe, didn't know how to sit still, didn't know how to anything. And I saw her shift into learning about herself. I saw her self-power come forward, and I saw her begin to really find a level of peace that she never had. And that changed everything for her. It really did. And I saw that shift where she could believe in herself and she started to remember who she was and use the tools. And it was amazing. It was so amazing to really see that shift, and learn about one's spirit and oneself and what they can go on to do, And so I think
absolutely.
that's cool. Yeah, I do. I think that when we can really open up, and it may have taken me until I was 40 and that was my path, and for some people they'll open up sooner and some people they won't. And, the natural tendency is to resist higher consciousness. That was one of the topics we were talking about today. So sometimes we resist a lot until we can finally get to that moment where we're on the edge, and that's where things shift and we ask for the help that we need. And then that's where that miracle comes forward. I've definitely seen them, I've definitely felt them. Yeah. Big and small.
Well, and when you think about, the mystical tradition of the Kabbalah, you were not even allowed to crack the book until you were over 40, is my understanding. And that to me, like, I woke up when I started having prophetic dreams at 9. And I did not know what to do with it. And I was in a family of atheists who basically, who had sensitivities but didn't acknowledge them. And so I grew up around muggles, basically. And I was this little magical child. And, I had no tools. I had no support. There was nothing out there to help me. And I think about the advantage of being somebody when you've already lived part of your life and you're grounded on this earth plane, and then go into the spiritual stuff. Like my understanding, especially with the Kabbalah, was that people would be invested in holding on to the earth plane in some way because they had a connection to things that mattered, so they wouldn't just jettison and fly way out into the middle of nowhere. So it's interesting, sort of the difference between what it's like to wake up as a very small, very young versus waking up a little bit later. I can see advantages to both, but I
Right.
think in some ways waking up a little bit later is in some ways much safer.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that,
Yeah.
but yeah, and I do think that, the more that we shift as a humanity and the planet shifts, the vibration shifts, the kids coming in are shifting too. And I see it with, the way that my kids are being now and what they've taken and learned, I guess, from me. And maybe some of it is I'm taking it for granted because we've been in the same household, but I think it is. And I'm seeing the children, well, they're not children, the kids, the younger generations coming in now. I've got some years on them, right? And they are coming in, to want to know and understand more of this kind of work that we're doing and how to take care of themselves. And yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And I see them coming in with I see them coming in with better boundaries, with more clarity, with more focus. Like they're not having to figure out a lot of the stuff that we had to figure out when we were younger, because so much of this is now, there's certain things that I think are so much more established. And I also think that for one, there's so much more information available, but also I think that there's been such a quickening that what used to be fairly difficult to access is now much easier to access, both on an informational level and then also on a vibrational and spiritual level.
I think so too, but I think it does take us to be the parents and to help them learn this and know this too. I think it's just as important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a great thing. So how do people get, I mean, I know we had mentioned your website earlier. If somebody's been listening to this interview and they are just like, oh my God, I need to work with this woman, what's the next step with you?
Yes, I would love to work with you. You can go to my website at naturalforcesstudio.com, and there is a pop-up that comes up, and right on the pop-up is either my phone, which you can call me, or you can just set an appointment. And then if it's not exactly jiving with the schedules, then we go back and forth. But it's very easy if you go to my website. And there's a free gift, a free Empowered Spirit assessment you can download, and it's just kind of some questions. It takes you through the elements: fire, air, earth, water, and spirit, just to kind of ask you some questions about yourself, and where are you, and where can you, look at things in a bit different, more deeper spiritual way. So you can also do that as well. I'm on Catch Your Spirit Blog Talk Radio, and I do pop-up readings. In fact, next Monday, the 11th, I'm doing pop-up readings. So if you find me on Facebook or even on Twitter, it goes out there, and you can call in and get a reading. I'll be doing readings, so we'll pop-up reading that day.
Oh, awesome. And Tina just jumped on and joined us.
Oh, hey,
just as you were
T.
speaking about doing fun.
Yeah. Tina has a great radio show too on Blog Talk too. Get into it with Tina. So yeah, we kind of cross with our shows a lot, which is fun. Yep. So that's another way. Yeah. And, and like today, the conversation with Greg, it may not be for everybody, but it was definitely about higher consciousness and being able to bring it in and working on the physical, emotional, mental layers of the body, and what we can do to help us break energy patterns, is great. I love talking to Greg. He's actually going to be in Birmingham this weekend teaching. So yeah, you can tell you what I'll be doing all weekend is absorbing more information. He's great. Great one. Yeah.
Very awesome.
Find me. Yep, that's definitely how they can find me. 2 easy ways, because on the website it comes right up into a pop-up, and then Blog Talk Radio is another one just to hear. Every Monday I'm online, and you can download the episode just to give you a little more information about many of the tools that we're talking about today.
Excellent. Well, I just added, since I couldn't post it for the recording, I just did add your website, your link onto the side of the questions right over there. And then also, how do people get a copy of Confessions of the Shower Tapper or of a Shower Tapper?
Yeah, of a Shower Tapper, the ultimate guide to living your purpose. You can find it on Amazon or Kindle. Yep, Amazon.com. Yep, it's available. And it'll give you 21, what I call confessions. They're really issues. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to make it. How can I charge that much? I'm not lovable. I've got weight issues. All those things that we all go through.
Those classics. Yeah.
Yeah. And it gives you some scripts, and it's vulnerable. I will admit, I didn't really realize it until all of a sudden, I don't know, a week before it actually came out, thinking, oh my God, people are going to really read this, and it takes place in the shower. What was I thinking? But anyway, it gives you some insight. And I know many people have a lot of the same questions. We all do, right? We all do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, I personally think that the more willing we are to share our truth and the more vulnerable we are and the more authentic we are, the more we can reach other people. Like, I mean, everybody knows. We've seen a million slick people. I want to hear people who've been through an experience. I want to know you've been through something. I'm going to trust you a hell of a lot more if I know that you've really been through it and you know how to get to the other side of it. I don't care if you look good. I'm much more interested in knowing what you've been through and that you're on the other side.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely sharing that. I am, and all the many things that we all go through. And I agree. I think that when we're vulnerable, we are more real. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, I never knew that about you. Oh my God, I never knew that about you. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. But I think within, there's definitely a chapter somewhere in there that everybody can relate to. And the point is to get out of our way, really, to get the critical mind out of the way and just really, you fall. That's what happens, and you get back up and you keep going. And that's really more of the true measure of success, I think, right? Is when we can get back up and keep going.
Absolutely.
And learn from the lessons, because there are big lessons out there. If you're falling big, there's big lessons, and look for that. And then that's what's going to make you more inherent in who you are and have that integrity to help, and especially if you're in this world as well, to help others as well. I think it's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just really want to reiterate what you were saying a little earlier and just you just were repeating, but what a miracle it is to, have that ability to get back up after you have a fall, after you bottom out, after you hit another bottom, to be able to choose to pull yourself back up and keep moving forward. And I'm so glad that you have, and that you're here, and that for all of the things that you have been through, that you and I are talking on this blab, and you're able to offer all of your wisdom and your strength and help other women to really come into their own power.
Yeah. I love it. I love seeing it. I really do. It really makes me feel so good to do the work that I'm doing. And it really does. And see people own up to who they are and find that confidence, and to get out of a situation that's not working for them, and to empower themselves to move forward. And I think we all can. I really do. I do think we all can. It does take some commitment and some effort and consistency, or discipline, however you want to look at it. But yeah, that's what I feel like is my purpose, is to hear and to offer spiritual tools, energetic tools that help us lead into the spirit. I believe we all have that force within us. And when we find it, I know that's what happened with me when I finally found that part of me that had been missing for so long. I remember that day. Got in the car, like, I'm going to be okay. I felt me. I felt my spirit. And that was the point that I started growing and opening up from that point out. Learned classes, found teachers, and that's what started to really make a difference. And that was my big lesson. Obviously, that was my big lesson, And luckily, it helped me help my kids too, and for them. And now, how many years later? Well, now they're in their 20s versus first and second grade. So now I see the difference in what it made with them. Yeah, it feels good. Definitely that miracle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are coming to the end of the hour. I'm just wondering if either Tina or Kim have any questions for you before we head out.
Hey, T, thanks for blabbing us out on Twitter. Got that. Yay.
Yay. Oh, she just jumped back on.
Yay. And Megan, thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming and being part of this. And I will be posting this on my YouTube channel. And that is, I will post a link for that. But that is, I'm Modern Medicine Lady on YouTube channel, but I believe it's like Jennifer Moore is Modern Medicine Lady, because it was one of those.
Yeah, I guess
you can only be.
And then you're going to be on my show. Do you remember the date?
Yes, I am going to be on your show on April 18th.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to do a tarot talk.
Yes.
And I finally am coming back from having, recovering from being on vacation. My brain took a whole week to get back online. So I've got my email with some photographs and my little bio and stuff like that to go to you, which is coming. I'll be sending that off later tonight. But yeah, so I'm going to be on your show on Blog Talk Radio on April 18th. And I believe now the time is, what is that? Is that 11 a.m. Central Time?
12 Central, 1 Eastern.
12 Central, 1 Eastern. Okay. So yes, I'm always, all of these different time zones. It's so confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I will be, so we're at 12 Central and 1 Eastern Standard, and it's going to be, I'm very much looking forward to it. It will be a blast to talk about the tarot. It is something that I've been loving for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about it for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Well, this has been fun. I will say this is one of my first blabs as a guest, so that's a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I'm not used
You're
to
so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. It's really been a blast. And I've just, blab is so fun because it's so informal and comfortable and casual, and you can just really get in and have a great conversation. I know, they were so beautiful. I have a question for you. Are any of these from America? Are any of I know there's major mines in Arkansas. Now, are any of your crystals from around you, or are they from other places? Or
these are not from that locally, although I have a lot of Arkansas quartz. These I've had, these are my personal babies that I actually brought from New York with me. So these were not, but now there's a great gem show that comes the first weekend of June down here. And those bring in a lot of the Arkansas quartz. So at my studio, we have some big, huge rocks that we get, and we've planted them in the garden and in my studio. I got a twin flame double point. So we do get a lot of quartzes down here. We get also local calcite, which is really nice.
Oh, wow.
Some of the selenite too. So we get a lot of that as well. And then we get some of the stilbite, which is a grounding. So that's actually been new since I've moved down here to add into my collection. So I have a lot of that at the studio. But these Lemurians are not. A lot of these, not exactly sure where they come from. Yeah,
probably Brazilian.
Yeah, probably
so
Brazilian. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually been fun. I look forward to it. It's the first weekend in June and what I'm going to find. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. One of my BFFs lives in Charlotte, and he and I keep talking about someday maybe doing a pilgrimage to Arkansas and going and doing some rock hounding, but with all of our spare time.
Yeah, big quartz. And then they have a lot that have the minerals in them, and they come out of orange. They come out really orange. Crystal points. Yeah, they're really amazing. Yeah. And I like having
sounds incredible.
the local. I think it's really great to have that. I think it helps me tune into, what is the universe telling us. Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, working with things working with something with a local vibration really helps our bodies to align with the places that we're in. So it totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Tina, I know you love your crystals too. I see your message there. I know, right? They become like our children, I joke that I sent my kids off to college with crystals and essential oils, and it's funny when I see their crystals, when I go visit them and see them, I remember them like, oh yes, this is this energy and that's that energy. Yep. So yeah, I have some of my favorites. Yep. And then I have the ones at the studio that I share with everybody, I actually have a selenite from the Queen's Mine in Mexico. It's that mine that opened up for a while. You probably saw pictures where the guy was about this big and the crystals were huge. I have a piece of the selenite quartz. Yeah, that's amazing. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
very
amazing.
Pure, very beautiful. Yeah. So I have one here too. I forgot about this one. This one's huge too. This one is
Oh my God.
Quartz. This one is great for expanding consciousness. So you put this on the light.
Yeah.
Pops. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's
Atlanta. I'll be in Atlanta at Transform, and I'm actually going to have some of my crystals and lights there. It's part of my booth setup, so we'll get to see them. Yeah, and
Oh,
anybody
wonderful.
transform. Yeah. So I will. That first night I'll be part of their marketplace sponsoring. Yeah. So
Oh, fantastic.
I'll have
I
one or two
can't
of my.
wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see them. And if anybody's curious about Transform, I believe the website is www.transformevent.com. I believe that is correct.
Okay.
Does that sound right to you? Let me
Huh,
just
right
check.
this moment, I don't really know.
It is. I was right. It is transformevent.com.
There you go. You're quicker than I am. Yay. Yay. And Tina says they're like family too to her, her crystals too. I hear you, Tina.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. They're so, yeah, crystals are just wonderful.
That-
Excellent.
yeah.
Yay. Well, Terri, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure having a chance to blab. And to all of you ladies who have joined us, and to all of you invisible viewers who've been watching us, thank you so much for being here. Really
Yeah.
appreciate
So
it.
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you can go to learn more about what Terri does by going to empoweredspiritprogram.com. And also, if you're interested in checking out some of the work that I'm doing, go to www.modernmedicinelady.com. And again, Terri's website is empoweredspiritprogram.com. And then your other website was it
Naturalforcesstudio.com.
naturalforcesstudio.com. So go check out Terri's stuff. Go sign up and get her gift,
Yeah.
and tell her she's awesome.
Yay. Thank you.
Yay.
You're awesome for having me.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Enjoy
Excellent.
all the gifts. So I guess as we say goodnight, just find your breath. Find something that can help slow you down, that can help shift your energy, take a pause from the busy world that we all live in. So I think that's create your toolbox. It's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste.
Yay.
Peace.
Peace,
Yay.
love. Yay. All right.
Okay. Until we meet again.
Until we meet again soon, we'll see. Yay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, hang up.
Yeah. So we'll be having another blab next Monday at 8 p.m. Please come join me for some more connecting and talking about spirit, and I'll be pulling some cards and sharing whatever is ready to be shared. So I hope you are all having a magnificent week. Peace.